Roll call 219 here. And this is just a little bit of a, public service announcement. I like to do these once in a while to help people out, especially people that are in their infancy of guns, especially new gun owners. The first one I'm going to talk about is like gun shows, specifically gun shows. When you go to these things, especially if it's your first one, it can be very exciting. It could be overwhelming. I mean, emotions run high when you're going for the first time and you're really into firearms. But one of the things that you shouldn't do at these gun shows, and sometimes at certain gun shops if they have it available, is just to pick up guns. It's always good to ask somebody to pick up a firearm. Like, you walk up to the table, can I handle that firearm? If they say yes, pick it up. If they say no, don't touch it. It's just one of those things about being courteous, especially at a gun show, because if you just go walk up to somebody's table and just start grabbing stuff off the table, you can really irritate that person, and that could spoil your chances of scoring a really nice gun or something that's really unique to your style that you would like to purchase. Because it's always good to haggle at gun shows. I haven't been to one here in quite some time, as I miss Tulsa. But that's a great reminder is when you go to places where you can pick up firearms, you should always ask to see them. It's courteous, and then again, you could strike up a conversation, and you might get a good deal on that firearm. If you just walk over there and start grabbing stuff off somebody's table, it's really going to show a negative impact on that person. They might even tell you to leave them alone. So that's a tip number one. Tip number two, especially at gun shops, is when the person behind the counter hands you a gun, don't turn your back on them. Don't turn your back on them with the gun. And I'll give a specific reason. Safety. Again, the world is a wild place. It's filled with a lot of wild people. And we never know what's going to happen. I see a lot of places nowadays with trigger locks on their guns. Some places, they'll still let you, if the next tip, pull the trigger. Sometimes a place will let you do that to test out the action. Never turn your back on there, because I don't know if you're putting a round in the chamber. I don't know if you're just going to run off with the gun. It's more of a safety precaution. And I can honestly tell you, don't do that. That'll kind of like mess up your relationship with that person behind the counter. So that's another tip I have for you, is, never turn your back on the counter, especially the person behind it, because you never know, that person behind that counter never knows what your intentions are with said firearm that they just handed you. So I would stay away from those two things I just explained. The third one is pulling the trigger on guns. Everybody likes to pull the trigger on gun and try and look at the reset of the firearm or the trigger pull itself, whether it be single or double action, or a striker fire gun. It's always polite to ask if you can pull the trigger. There's been so many times that, some people call it a myth, some people don't, is especially with 22s, of pulling the trigger on a 22 caliber firearm, because they're so, docile that it could mess up the firing pin. Some people say no, some people say yes, but just out of courtesy, you should always ask if you can pull that trigger. A lot of guns nowadays are getting better at being able to dry fire them. But I remember years ago, I think it was the Beretta Pico, where if you dry fired that gun without a snap cap, you can actually break the firing pin on it. So it's always be courteous at a gun counter or at a gun show. And if they allow you to pull the trigger on it, ask first. Just don't go up and grab the gun and start manipulating the slide and pulling the trigger. That could really, turn people off to you. Especially if you're looking for a deal on a firearm, if you're just walking up and trying to pull every trigger that's on the, every trigger on a gun at the counter or the show you're at. You should never do that. You should always ask first. Courtesy could open up realm of possibilities. Whether it's a good deal on a firearm, a pretty good story, or some much needed knowledge. We're always consuming knowledge, and I believe knowledge is a key in a lot of things in life. But that's probably the three things that I'd like to go over and share with you guys, of maybe some tips and tricks, the do's and don'ts of gun shows or certain gun shops. Is never turn your back on the person that hands you a firearm. Don't be pulling the triggers on a bunch of guns without asking, and don't pick up guns without asking either. Courtesy goes a long way, as I've said before. It really opens up the relationship for you, especially like me. I live in a new area now, and there's some gun shops around here, so I'm going to be courteous with these people. And you never know, I might come into a deal that is really, really outstanding. I've done that before in the city that I used to live in. I've created a pretty good relationship with the gun shops there, and I've gotten some pretty good deals because I've been courteous and I've asked and done some certain things, and I've also learned stuff from them. So the consumption of knowledge is very beneficial in those kind of ways. So hopefully you take those three things and you apply them, and hopefully you come out with either a good bit of knowledge or a good deal on a firearm. I like to thank my old and my new subscribers and just the people that zip through. I greatly do appreciate it. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share all the content that you watch on any piece of social media. And please do it for me as well. And like always, guys, we'll catch you on the next one.